you can frame it however you want, right? In terms of like, you're being punished for not supporting every form factor in the world. And I can understand how you would view it that way because, like you're saying, a few years ago, if you had a good game, it would just get featured. And now your good game has to also align with the platform's expansion goals into new domains.
Butterscotch Shenanigans.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 563 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam and I'm there teased.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is March 6th, 2020. Quick! Today we're going to talk about Slay the Spire, just a little bit. We're going to talk about how many dudes Next Fest post hoc. We're going to just take a look back at what the numbers were and kind of how that went.
Postmortem.
And then we want to talk a bit about kind of we're going to take a higher level view of what's going on in the games industry as far as all the major platforms and what kinds of changes are they making and what does that mean for indie developers, and maybe for AAA. But we don't really dip our toes in that.
It's a different game entirely, you know?
Yeah.
It's just too different.
Yeah. So first off, Slay the Spire 2. It came out yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yep. Recently.
And it is just fucking cruising. So one of the cool things about the original Slay the Spire is, so it had this very tepid, I think like an early access launch, just didn't really get any traction. And then at some point, somebody picked it up. I think it was like a Chinese streamer or something.
I think so, yeah.
Back in like 2018 or 2017 or something. And it just took off like a rocket. So
Also,
it was
just to make sure we're emphasizing the point, when you say it like didn't really do much,
it had like 4 concurrent players. Pete.
Yeah, we're
for like
talking
6 months, right? Like,
Yeah.
nothing.
It's like the
Very bad.
devs, it's as if like the devs sent it to their friends and family and they were like, nice. And then they never told a soul about it beyond that. You know, that's kind of like the reach that it had. And then it's a great game. And once it broke through somehow into the public and word started spreading about it, then it just went nuts. And we know now that, they've got what's their proportion of players that play beyond like 100 hours? It's like,
There's an image floating around that I found of like the playtime histogram for Slay the Spire. And it shows that 20% of players play for more than 100 hours.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Truly insane for indie games.
Because that in theory, like think about people who get a game and play it, right? Like 1 in 5 of those people, like, cause like it's everybody, people who have jobs, people who have families, people have all kinds of stuff going on, right? And like
1 in 5 is crazy.
1 in 5 of them.
what I'd be most interested in is deeper into that histogram because Steam only shows you the 100+
That's
hour
true.
Yeah,
mark.
because why would they show you higher numbers? Right?
Yeah, and it's like, wow, what proportion have 1,000 hours? I bet it's probably 10% at least.
It's
gotta
Just
be
because if
something
you look
dumb,
at their concurrent player chart, it kind of settled at like 7,000 to 10,000 concurrent players, and it just hung out there for years. And then when they
Wow.
announced Slay the Spire 2 a couple years ago, it started creeping up, and they weren't releasing any updates or anything. It's
just
game
the drumbeat of the sequel coming.
Yeah.
You always bring new information, new attention back. You know?
Yeah, the game just is what it is, and people are like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna keep playing it. And its concurrent player count on Steam went up, and it kind of settled around 20,000 before Slay the Spire 2. Or sorry, I think it was like as of a month ago or something. And then as Slay the Spire 2's release date started coming, then it just skyrocketed again. Close to like 100,000 or something. So now Slay the Spire 2 is out.
too, right? Slay
It's
the
on
Spire
mobile
as
as
well.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how. I'm gonna look it up.
See, but Slay the Spire 2 peak currency as of the last like 24 hours, it's like 430,000. By the way, Marathon launched, which is a gigantic AAA game.
Right. Yep.
Giant Bungie, it's like Destiny, Halo people.
It's got 1/10 the players of Slay the Spire 2, right?
Which is crazy. And that's the thing is like they still have a lot. That's actually fine. They're doing great. But like that's what I mean. The scale. I was like, wow, that is. Congrats.
Yeah,
to
Yeah,
you,
even on a
Super.
mobile. So on mobile, I was on Google Play. They're selling it for $10, and they've got 26,000 reviews and over 1 million downloads. With a premium title at
Is it the
$10.
original one?
Yeah.
Slay the
Original
Spire,
one.
OG.
Yeah.
I believe it's in Play Pass also. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this probably accounts for a large fraction of those million downloads.
Yeah,
presumably.
But still, one
even
thing we know about
still-
these subscription services like Play Pass is
Yeah,
if
you get
people
paid
are
out by
playing,
playtime.
you get paid by playtime basically. So clearly they're going to be doing well because people who have Slay the Spire, they just play it. They just play it forever.
Yeah, it's an Unreal launch. I can't imagine.
Did they also launch Slay the Spire 2 on mobile?
I don't think so. It's just because it's still in early access on Steam. It's the early access Steam launch. It's not even the 1.0, right?
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's early access, and they already have 400,000 concurrent.
I actually was like, that's
huge congrats. I mean, and we were kind of talking earlier in January when we were making our predictions about like this is the year of the indie. I feel like we're being validated kind of over and over again in that because Mugenics, even though some of us weren't huge fans of it, but it still crushed everything.
Yeah.
And there's even more cool stuff coming this year. There's this game called How Many Dudes is coming later this year. It's going to be just.
But also, there was
really
that.
Good.
Speaking
really
also
good.
of that gap, right? High Guard. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh yeah.
High Guard just got.
They just
it's been out since January. It's been out for like less than 2 months.
Yeah,
and
I think 45 days.
For 45 days, and they announced that they're shutting it down next week. Or something. It's like right now, right?
That's so sad.
And just. So
it's
that's like that's
failure
what AAA is up to.
Yeah, failure on like an indie level is like really personal, right? Where you're like, oh fuck, like that person and they're like whoever's depending on them. That
they
sucks.
put everything into it, On
a AAA, it's like a scale problem. It's like on a AAA level, you're like, I don't even know the kind of wreckage.
Like, the poor shareholders.
Well, no, the devs. I mean, like that's what I mean. Like the scale of the teams that make
1,000 people lost their
like,
jobs, basically, right? Yeah,
that's horrible. So it's like you don't want. I mean, I think there's a lot of, depending on the player population and stuff, there's a lot of this like schadenfreude, I feel like, for like whenever AAA games fail in particular. Yeah. Or frankly, even just any hyped game before. I mean, people are wanting to not like Marathon. I think luckily,
anytime there's a surge of interest in something, there's a counter surge of people like, well, I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not on board this.
Yeah, and it's like, I think we're even.
I think it's also for that corporate bit, right? Because really, it's that we all want the CEOs to just take a hit, please.
We all want the man to get taken down.
Yeah, I think the problem
the
is
man will never get taken down without first everybody below them.
He's going to bring everybody down with him,
Yeah. So even in cases where you don't necessarily like the game, like Seth, you didn't like Mugenics so much. I was like, I like it. I would like to like it more. It's kind of like where my take was. But like, I'm stoked that they're having so much success with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I bought it. I didn't refund it or anything. I was just 100%. Like, it's not really for me. But I didn't give it a bad review on Steam because again, it's like the things that I didn't like about it, I know are personal to me, and I can't really say that other people shouldn't play it.
Right. So it's really nice to see though. Like I think when you see an indie team like the Slay the Spire team too, and like that's just an unbelievable amount of success. I just can't even fathom that.
Yeah.
500,000 concurrents, basically like. What
on an early access title?
I don't even. Yeah,
few days after launch.
Well, on a more humble note in terms of numbers, let's talk about How Many Dudes next week.
Just for contrast.
We had Next Fest finished up on Monday of this week. That was the 1 week demo festival on Steam. That as an indie, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to do it. Got to figure out how to orient yourself so that you have like the most success possible." So we put How Many Dudes in there. And we timed some things out so that it would work where we felt like we had enough of like some things happening right before so that we could get a little bit of juice before we go in there. And as far as like our numbers, what we're seeing, what everyone else is seeing, I think some context is good, which is one is there were 50% more games in this Next Fest than last year's February Next Fest, which is insane.
Which also kind of coincides with what we're talking about of the slop volume problem.
Yes.
That's going to just be an ongoing accelerant.
Yeah.
Just going forward.
And in concert with that, you saw there's a lot of people talking about like whether they're press or influencers, basically the timeline from which they've been being bombarded about games that are coming into this Next Fest, right? Apparently starting in like January or so, just getting, I mean, we were doing it too, like email after email after email. Hey, I'm just new game coming up in Next Fest. Try the demo. And
it's also important to think about too from a scale standpoint, right? Is like Steam, the difference for Steam, the difference between say trying to figure out how to surface the best of 2,000 games versus 4,000 games, kind of the same problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still limited spots, and so like it's it does
forces
get more
certain things
difficult,
to
right?
happen. Yeah.
But if you're a news person, an influencer, right? Looking at your email inbox, the difference between getting
Yeah.
50 emails and 100 emails, right? Or 50 and 1,000 emails is it goes from being like, oh, I can manage this and find stuff to being, I'll just throw my computer
just
away.
a flood.
Right?
Yep.
It's
So
not
what you
even
probably
usable.
have is you probably got like a bunch of these games are made as fast as possible using a bunch of AI crap.
Yeah.
And then they're using AI to spam influencers with emails. And then the influencers are using AI to cut out as many emails as possible. So it's just I wonder how many of these exchanges actually have a human on both ends of it,
Yeah,
or
who
is it
knows?
just like
Yeah.
Which is probably going to be increasingly why what we'll be seeing is that you just won't be able to pitch a game directly to somebody you don't already know, right?
and it's kind of like the
You still
open source
can.
problem, right? Of now open source projects are like, okay, we got to shut down pull requests because we're just flooded with AI.
Relationships become more important, right?
Yeah.
In this context. But I think that's an interesting grounding note. I think for all this, which is like there's just 50% more games.
lot, yeah.
It's not even just all slop. I mean, it's just there's just a lot more games. Period. Right.
Yep.
And so
it's a good thing too, yeah, because there are just a
there's
lot
a
more
good thing
people
too,
making games, and that's great. We want more people making games.
Yeah. But so the interesting trend line there, though, is basically that like games that are coming into Next Fest that are already doing good stuff, like where they already had something happening, are the ones who kind of just stick on the top of the pile, and also they just kind of collect all the wish lists, right? It's just kind of increasingly likely, I think, that you kind of show up at a Next Fest and like the demo bubbles up in like a organic discovery sort of way that is huge. And that's what I want to grant it, because like as an indie dev, you might be saying like, oh, I came in with like 100 wish lists and I got like 400, and I'm like stoked about that, and that is good in terms of like where you were to where you could go. I think what I'm talking about is in years past, the possibility space for that would have been something more like 100 to like 1,000 or something, like considerably more if the game started to pick up, versus kind of what we're seeing now, which is it seems like a little bit of a flattening across the board.
And because I think the first couple of days of Next Fest is basically a random exposure
It's random,
experiment, which also just means those first couple of days there's just only so much visibility to go around, and if there's 3,000 games, then your game just
it's actually splitting it.
Yeah.
And so all that to say, so what we saw was basically like, so we got around 12,000 wish lists during the Next Fest window, the week of Next Fest. And for context, for how many dudes it has been doing, and like we talked about, it's been shockingly steady in terms of taking a very long time to fall down. We waited for it to go all the way down to like a couple hundred wish lists a day, still hadn't. Compared to what we consider like a dead week, a couple of weeks prior, where like nothing had been happening and it was just still cruising on whatever magic was happening. We estimate it was probably like a 6,000 wish list bonus, as in if we didn't do Next Fest or Next Fest wasn't happening, it probably would have been about 6,000 wish lists. And then because we did do Next Fest, we get an extra 6 on top. So an extra 6,000, again, sounds great. It is great. But for context, when we did Crashlands 2 back in 2023, the game demo performed, in most cases, half to a fifth as good, depending on which metrics you're looking at.
Yeah, we had far fewer demo players overall.
We came in with fewer wish lists. Some of their positioning and also like didn't have anything happen the week before, whatever. The only difference is we launched our demo like 2 weeks before versus months before. And I think at that time we saw around 15,000 wish lists total, but the bonus ones were like 14,000, 12,000, like almost all of them. And so that's what I mean, where it's like, it's still
by
good,
any
but you're
metric,
like,
how many dudes should have outperformed what we saw with Crashlands 2 for Next Fest?
right. If Next Fest was holding steady in terms of like,
but Next Fest itself did not perform even close to.
Which is, I think, similar to what
like,
we saw with like the Crashlands 2 versus Crashlands 1 launch on all platforms, actually, right? But mobile in particular, where, again, by all metrics, Crashlands 2 should have outperformed Crashlands 1 at launch, right? Like comparing the two launches together. And on Steam, that was true globally.
in a big way, yeah.
But if you like compare the two, it wasn't as true as it should. There was more lift that should have happened relatively.
Yeah.
And on mobile, it was like a 90% drop, right? From like relative release.
Yeah, mobile just cratered. Just
cratered.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think this
because
is
it's
that
attentional
scale
split problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, it's
there's
all
just so
at the
much
same
stuff
time.
happening. And so what we saw then largely as far as the trend was like games that had like a very large demo update or launched their demo for the first time like a week or two before, and already, this is like really important, when they launched their demo, already had a fuckload of wish lists. So I'm not talking about like your random indie game with 500 wish lists, you launch your demo the week before. Probably not a good recipe, right? Generally still a best bet to get the demo out a little bit earlier so you can get more traction. But if you have like 100,000 wish lists and you haven't put out a demo yet, and then you put out a demo right before Next Fest, you can see these games like they're, as far as their peak player concurrency and stuff, it kind of like stayed the same actually through Next Fest.
Yeah, that's the thing is like even the best performing games during Next Fest, it looked like anytime we looked and like tried to like go to SteamDB to look at currency, and we have limited
already
windows
doing that
stuff,
well
right?
a couple days before. Usually, you know what I mean?
It looked like a small lift for everybody. Yeah. Even because you'll see charts out there where it's like, oh, this game got like 200,000 wish list over Next Fest, right? But if you look, they came in with 1 million, right?
Yep.
It's like they were probably going to do that anyway.
Was actually higher like 3 days prior to Next Fest, oftentimes.
Yeah. Which is all to say, like it looked like based on our own numbers and the numbers that people were sharing, which again, it's a limited view, so it's hard to know for sure. But based on all the information that we have available to us, it doesn't look like Next Fest really boosts.
Well, I guess it does, but it's like,
but not enough to like have that be like, this is the thing that is my like launch strategy.
It wouldn't be your breakout moment, I guess is the way to put it. And it might, and again, like depending on what you're considering success for your own game is like your important caveat here, right? Because again, if you're just like, I'm doing this as a hobby, I had 100 wish lists, I got 500, 600, whatever. That might be
more
for
is
you.
good.
More is good. Again, it's always good. It's just like the relative power of this thing has waned, I think is the easy way to put it. And we saw that. Everybody saw that. So how many dudes did end up in the top 50 demos? We were number 27 in terms of like total players during the event, which is great. We managed
for
to
a
maintain.
demo that's been out for months. Feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. We didn't have anything like we did our Convergence Festival stuff a couple days before, but like during the fest, we didn't have any particular. We weren't pushing. We weren't paying for ads or anything. There's nothing, outside of the fest itself driving traffic.
We just kind of let Next Fest just do its thing, and we would just see what happens.
Yeah. And so we're very, very pleased with that position. And importantly, I think one of the funny notes is that being in the top 50 right after Next Fest, there's a new little banner on the front page of Steam that says like top 50 Steam Next Fest demos, which of course is its own little featuring spot from Steam itself. So that the first day of being in there was the day we got the most wish lists. It was basically the day after Next Fest concluded. And that was like 2,400 wish lists.
Yeah, again, it comes down to curation, right? It's like if the platform says like, hey, here's a bunch of really good games, people are like, oh, I'll look at that, right? As opposed to like, hey, here's just a bunch of games. People, what are you gonna do?
And again, like that I think it's interesting too is like when I'm saying we're getting like an extra 6,000 wish lists relative to baseline. The reality is like our baseline's we've been waiting for it, and it's been sliding down as overall. We haven't done anything with the demo, as attention's been drifting off. So I'm comparing that to like 2 weeks prior to Next Fest, and we'll see kind of in the future. In the next, I'm assuming we're finally going to hit our like our low point, as we go into our kind of dev hole as we go to finish it out. How many dudes weren't really doing anything? So the reality is that it's anywhere from like 6 to I don't know maybe 10,000 bonus wish lists that we got, if you want to consider the fact that we're seeing decay, over time. So who knows where we would have been.
Yeah. So it's probably a doubling, right?
Yeah, at least a doubling.
Give or take. Yeah. So yeah, it's, again, more is good, and that's a healthy little boost.
More is good. It's just kind of, it's a bummer that it's not, that like relatively, the strength of the thing is not increasing over time. You know what I mean?
It's just a tragedy of the commons. It's just
we've been thinking of because we talk about how like Steam is the platform today where you can have sort of self-driven success, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like possible for you to come in out of nowhere, release a game, and have it be successful. But the reason that is true is because of ways to get visibility on the platform, right? Because if you don't have means of driving traffic into Steam yourself, then it is just not true. It's not true that you can have a successful title on Steam if you can't drive anything yourself.
Correct. So that's increasingly true. The threshold
that's
for that
increasingly true because for a brief little period of time, it looked like Next Fest was this like cool way where you could be like, I've got a game and it's great, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody knows who I am. I don't have any way to get everybody to pay attention. I just need people to play it so they can see that it's good. Like that's the idea of Next Fest, right? And there was this brief little window of time where it looked like, hey, maybe this actually works as a way that you can that's the lever you pull. You can come in. And I think that's the thing to me where our experience, and it was true our experience with Crashlands 2 also, it felt like that was strong evidence against that idea. But also Crashlands 2 doesn't demo as well as something like How Many Dudes.
Yeah.
So for me, it was with How Many Dudes, I was like, okay, this just isn't, it's flat out not true. It's flat out not true that if you're trying to release a game on Steam, because
that you could only do Next Fest as your way of
well, or not even only, but just that you can count on it at all.
Right. But also
the impact is just too small.
Resident Evil launched their game right smack into Next Fest as well, which was getting hundreds of thousands of concurrent players. So they kind of sucked up a bunch of player attention.
It's basically you only have that, and again, it's not really saying that people who would have done Next Fest stuff instead went and played Resident Evil. That's actually not what we're talking about. It's just the store page itself, the homepage of Steam. The Next Fest goes from being the top big build item to being a smaller item to not even being on the front page, right? Potentially,
you got to go drill into the Next Fest.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, which is just the surfacing of the fact that this is happening is harder. It's getting interrupted now. Before I think it was at least the first couple times they did it. It was the whole week.
That's what the store is. The store is Next
just
Fest.
A big banner. So yeah.
Well, let's get into talking about not just Steam, but kind of everything. So something we've been thinking a lot about as we've been working toward the How Many Dudes launch strategy, which we're still figuring out as we're developing and finishing off the content and the game systems and stuff, is where should we be launching this game and when, and then what are each of these different platforms trying to do right now, and what are the kind of pitfalls and opportunities there. So something to think about as an indie developer is you basically want to get your game somewhere where there's a lot of players and you can get really good visibility and where people buy stuff, right? And every platform, so we're talking Steam, Google, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and the App Store. So those are kind of your big six. How should you be thinking about those things? And what are these platforms trying to angle toward that you can maybe try to take advantage of? So we thought we just kind of take some time this episode and just kind of talk through all of it as an interesting snapshot of where the industry's at right now.
Yeah, and GDC is happening during this episode.
So some things will change.
There's always announcements of this stuff, but I think what we're going to be talking about is mostly just the really high level trend line we're seeing.
Big picture, yeah.
That probably is more so going to be reinforced by whatever specifics people are announcing. I assume next week, but we'll kind of see.
Yeah, so let's talk about Steam first, since we were just talking about it. So Steam, I think right now, I think we all agree is it's the best. It's the best. It's the best place to make money. It's the easiest to work with. It has a massive player base. You can drive your own success there, where if you have something that gets a lot of attention outside of Steam,
you can get rewarded for
and
that.
It drives traffic in, then Steam will start to surface it organically, and there's a lot of algorithmic discoverability and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not a great place for a cold start. You can't just put a game on Steam and have that. But nothing is. Yeah, but just to be clear, there is no platform that can do that. There's no platform that can do that. There, in the early days of Steam, it was the platform that could do that. But we're well beyond those. That time.
So I think if in the simplest terms, if we were starting out today and you wanted the simplest strategy possible, just do Steam.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it.
Because the other thing about Steam is they have a lot of opportunities for you to capitalize on if you have the technical capacity to do it, but it's not a requirement, right? So if you want to support Steam Deck, you'll get some extra featuring in some Steam Deck sections, and if you submit to the Steam Deck Verified program. But Valve isn't going to do anything if you don't support Steam Deck. They're just like, all right. And they'll even let people try to play your game on Steam Deck if they want to try it. Right. It's not going to be blocked necessarily.
Yeah, to an extent, they actually can block games on Steam Deck.
That's true,
But most games don't fall into that category.
Yeah.
But also, because you're saying you don't get punished for not doing it, right? But whether something is a punishment versus the absence of a reward is just, that's how you feel.
It's semantics, right? But yeah.
Because you do get rewarded for doing it, because they do have visibility for like because they want to sell those units, right? Like they're trying to create that market.
Yeah.
So they want to sell Steam Decks, and so whether you're on Steam Deck or not, Steam Deck as a thing has top featuring all the time.
Yeah.
On
There's
Steam.
always a little
And then
section, you know.
there's always a section that's like here's what people are playing on Steam Deck, you know, whatever, right?
I think importantly though, it's very algorithmically driven, and it's saying here's the top games that are played on Steam Deck. It's not saying these developers did what we asked them to do, and now here's a feature spot for it.
Yeah.
And it's also not.
There are new spots where you can be rewarded, right?
Great.
But you don't. But again, this is all just like you get to decide how you're interpreting it, right? Because it's like, hey, if I do this, then this happens. That's true, right? If I don't do it, it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. So to keep things positive, we'll frame as many things possible as bonuses and rewards.
Yeah, bonuses.
Right.
So you
Because,
can get bonus
you can-
visibility, and I think that to me the interesting thing about for Steam, and you'll see this kind of on any platform that's behaving well, is that if they're trying to make something happen that has some cost to you, you're going to get some kind of disproportionate reward. So if we think about that on the Steam Deck side, right? They really want to sell Steam Decks, but almost nobody has a Steam Deck proportionally for Steam, right? It's like a few percent. So the lift to you to sell units is zero, because most of those people probably would have bought your game anyway.
And there's no Steam Deck exclusive. It's not like
No,
you
Steam
can
Deck
get a
exclusive is
game
not
that's
exclusive.
only on Steam Deck, but not on.
Yeah. So for you as a
Steam.
developer, the reason you would do it is because you want players to have that option because you think it's great, or because you want to do it, you know, whatever, right? Or because there is this extra boost and visibility that you can get, right?
Yeah.
And there's this disproportionate aspect of it that, again, if a platform is behaving well, is what should happen, which is that if you do something that's not likely to have an actual reward for you, right, that you get some kind of disproportionate something from the platform. So in this case, it is that featuring, and it's limited. Like it's not the kind of full discovery. Like not that none of that stuff is really in there, but the fact that you can appear somewhere, given that 2% of Steam users, right,
It's 2%
on a Steam Deck, right,
Yeah.
even matter.
Without that featuring, you'd say, well, it's only a 2% change in my possible audience, and also it may not even be a change, right? Because it's
the same people.
Yeah, it's the same people.
It's the same people.
Yeah, so it may change literally nothing financially, but because of that bonus featuring, then yeah, it can potentially help. But also,
which is to say, like if we're talking about like what I would do if I was just starting from scratch and I was trying to do the cheapest development possible, whatever, I would not support Steam Deck.
yeah, I wouldn't worry about Steam Deck.
Wouldn't do it.
You know, but if you already have controller support, then
Then you
might
already
not.
support Steam
Yeah,
Deck.
the downside of the Steam Deck is they're very picky about font sizes, which can get a little tricky. Even like we were into that for Crashings 2, which was designed for mobile. And there were a couple of UIs where, our characters were 1 pixel too short.
Yeah. However, we did yell at them about all that because Oblivion came out when we were going through our verification. It was just trash.
It was
on
at
there,
like 10
and
FPS.
They were like, "Oh, it's on top." So we gave. I think they made some changes since we talked.
Yeah,
I know
they might be a little bit more. You know, it's if it works good enough, then it's let the players play it and give it a thumbs down if it sucks.
And they weren't
right?
they weren't wrong. The text was really small, right? But I think that to the point though is
They
like
were
the
wrong,
game,
but they were not applying their rules across
Yes, yeah,
all
exactly,
of the games. So,
but from a development standpoint, like the cost to you, as I said, that's actually important. That the main one is because it's the same build and it's controller support. That's the main thing. But it is also the case that screen tiny. It is a
not
mobile
1080p,
device, right?
You know?
there's a
in
cascade
games,
of changes associated with any.
Yeah,
form
you can't
factor.
just put it on there, right? So, for most games, so again, I would just say don't do it.
Yeah. And so, but otherwise, and then there's potentially the Steam machine coming, but again, because of all of the really cool, super cool, awesome things happening in the tech industry due to the AI bubble, we don't know when that Steam machine's coming, but presumably they'll handle it similarly to the Steam Deck, where it's like, oh yeah, if you run your game through some kind of a program, you can get sort of a check mark saying, yep, Steam machine works great on Steam machine, and then they'll throw some featuring your way or whatever.
Which is basically probably going to
So-
be controller support again, right? Because it's meant to be kind of like a
Probably,
console,
yeah.
right? So
It's a console, so
So yeah. So
But
again,
even-
we're going to have a theme through this whole discussion, which is controller support.
Controller support, yeah. Because one of the biggest challenges of getting into any given platform is the question of input methods. So let's talk about Google.
yeah.
Okay.
What are they doing?
So Google, they've got their Google Play Store, and since time immemorial, it's just been just a massive pile of free games riddled with ads and in-app purchases, and that's kind of what the Play Store has been. in recent times, Google has kind of expressed a desire to push for more premium experiences, right?
And they do
try
Play
to-
Pass now, which was like the big thing, right?
Yeah.
As a way of consolidating a store within the store of essentially usually premium games or really good free-to-play games that then remove a lot of the free-to-play nonsense,
Yeah.
right?
So Play Pass, I think, is a great thing. If you're into playing games on your phone or tablet or whatever, then the stuff in Play Pass is often very good. And
All you need.
again, you're paying a subscription, so you don't need you can't have in-app purchases. You don't have to pay for anything.
It's
right?
like $5 a month too.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more now, but yeah. So one of the interesting things, though, that Google is pushing for as a company is they're trying to creep. They're trying to creep into what they consider to be new markets.
New
Largely,
to Google, right? Yeah.
largely they want to do whatever they can to sort of get into the living room, get onto the PC. They want people playing games on Android, but with controllers, with keyboard and mouse, on Chromebooks, you name it. Get it onto every possible device, every possible
essentially
form
factor increase, right? So not just touch, I guess, is what I think about, not just
Yeah.
mobile controls, but now all the controls, right?
Yeah. And so this is
But
kind
also
of
not. But on top of that, it's not just like all the controls, but it's also on any given device more controls, right? Because
That's where it
historically
starts getting
we
wrinkly.
avoid having both like touch and other kinds of support be possible.
Well, we always allow
Right.
controller support. So our normal
Right,
approach
yeah.
in the past has been there's a default, which is either touch or keyboard and mouse, and then you can optionally use a controller. So if you're on mobile, we default to touch. If you're on PC, we default to keyboard and mouse. And then once we detect controller input, then the game just switches over to controller. The tricky part is if you're saying, okay, well, now we're going to do 3 input mechanisms, keyboard, mouse, touch, and controller, then you got to be able to differentiate between
on the same device, as in
on
like
the same device. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody taps the screen right now, our games read that as a mouse input, as a cursor input. And so we don't know whether that's you actually plugged a mouse into your Chromebook or something and are clicking with a mouse, or whether you just touch the screen with your finger. We
This is
can't
also true
tell
for
that.
Steam Deck. This is one of the biggest struggles with Crashlands too. Preparing for the Steam Deck release was that was one of the things we got prevented from getting marked as a playable game, whatever, was exactly that, because they were like, Steam is like, people should be able to like play on a Steam Deck with a keyboard and mouse, which we were like, that's insane, but sure. Right.
I should be able to fly, Steve.
But that was our form factor, where that was the first case where we ran into this situation where, as a platform that supports touch, keyboard and mouse technically, because you can plug them in, and a controller because it is a controller, but also external controllers can talk to it, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first case we ran into this, and it was a hot mess.
It's tricky.
Trying to deal with it. Right? I think
because also,
ultimately,
I
didn't we
think on the-
just not support something? Like, what did
We
do?
still just narrowed it back down to 2. I think we just said we're not going to worry about keyboard on a
that's
Steam
what we
Deck. And so Steam Deck basically behaves like a for us on Crashlands 2. It behaves like a mobile device where it's touch, but it defaults to controller until you touch the screen, right? And then we switch over to touch. So we don't show keyboard keybinds if you've touched the screen. And so it's crazy.
The reason this is all important is because basically every time, as a dev making a game, every time you're supporting a different form factor, so keyboard or keyboard mouse or just mouse, touch, and then controller, each one of those has pretty intense UI implications in particular, as well as if you're changing form factor in terms of scale, you also have like font size issues and things like that. It's not like, I guess I think in a lot of ways when players are thinking about controller support, they're like, just add controller support. And it's like, it's not hard to make the inputs do things when you touch the buttons. That is not particularly hard. It's the hard thing is making it so that you as a player know what button you can even press on any given UI. We have to update every single UI.
And mapping just the sheer number of things that might have to be mapped.
Yeah,
right,
depending on
onto
if it was
that
planned
tiny-
for originally. Yeah, you got 16 buttons, Are you going to make people do the thing where you're like, hold LB and press a thing? Because now people are, that's like, it's just a lot, right? And so what's so interesting is that everyone's creeping, right? So Steam's creeping. Steam's like, we got a Steam Deck, so now we're like a Switch. We also have a Steam Machine coming, so now we're in your living room. And then Google's over there, and Google's like, well, yep, tablets and phones are cool, but we're starting to creep too. So you guys, do keyboard mouse, and they have a level up program.
Yeah,
which they've already announced.
So Google's pressing; they're pushing harder than Steam to try to creep. Because Google announced their Level Up program, which is basically they're saying if you support cloud saving through Google, so that way,
which is easy. That's not a problem.
So that your save can transfer between Google devices that you sign into your Google. You support all the control schemes, touch, keyboard, mouse, and controller. And you integrate their new Sidekick overlay, which is kind of like the Steam overlay.
Is it the Sidekick overlay and the cloud thing? Those are software problems, and those are not hard. You know what I mean? They don't have tremendous
you
impact.
You can slap that onto any game.
Whatever, bolt it on.
Yeah, the real problem.
They live
is
on
the
top.
Control
they don't
schemes.
live within the game, right?
And it's unclear. So there's a TechCrunch article that came out about this with regard to Google settling a lawsuit with Epic Games about in-app purchases, et cetera, and there was an extra paragraph in there about this Level Up program where they were saying that so if you join this Level Up program, then you'll the cut that Google takes from your game instead of the 30% will be 20%, and then that's for any prior installs of the game before you enter this program.
And then
for new installs, it'll be 15%.
But all
this is framed as in-app purchase related, and it's unclear what the fuck that means with regard to games in Google Play Pass and also premium games, right?
But they also have a program that you, I think, opt into for some reason, where you only pay a 15% rate for the first $1 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I think theirs is automatic. I think Apple has.
Was it Apple's that you
opt into? You have to opt into it every year. Yeah.
So Google's basically saying, hey, we really want to incentivize this. So we're going to just take they're going to take half as big of a cut, essentially, if you support all these different form factors and stuff.
Yeah. But again, I think that only matters if you're making so much money that actually makes a difference, unless this changes the other program, given that you're already only paying a 15% cut.
Correct.
If you're under $1 million.
If you're under $1 million, which almost everybody is.
Yeah. So for most people, it changes nothing. Yeah. And then
except for the visibility thing, right? Which is
and they got bonus featuring, and they're really going to push hard for games that are in this program because Google is they're trying to think about PC and console and whatever else. They want to eat into those markets with Android games.
Yeah.
It's unclear, as with all these things, anytime there's kind of a push like this, it kind of makes it think back to like the Google Stadia days or things like that, where it's kind of like they're making a decision about what they want players to want, but it's unclear if players actually give a shit. So we'll see what happens.
And that is like as an indie developer in particular, that is most of what the market is like. That's what it means to be working with the market, is looking at what it's doing right now, making some guesses about what that means for the short-term future, and figuring out what does that mean for my ability to have my game be visible or to have people fund it.
Yeah, what do I need to do?
Or whatever. And so even because I agree, like I don't to me the Google Play coming on a PC thing, I don't see that doing what Google wants.
We're just like supporting the requirement to support all the form factors is just interesting.
Yeah, like a Chromebook. The lift that we're going to experience as developers selling games for like to be on PC, to be on Chromebook, to whatever, to have the ability to have all three input mechanisms exist at the same time, right? The lift we're going to see is going to be effectively zero, is my suspicion.
Except I guess if it was just
for
organic.
the visibility part,
except for the visibility.
But the visibility, like back on mobile again, right? So, but the point being that like ultimately, my bet is that these all go away because Google won't see any benefit from doing it. Yeah. But because while they're doing it,
play a PC game, are you going to be like, let me boot up Google Play games on PC real quick and see what they got, right?
Yeah, probably.
You're like, let me just boot up Steam.
And if Google Play was being smart, they could take a long play here, right? Because kids start on mobile today.
Yeah.
So if you
they're bringing their libraries to where, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically
to then where kids end up, right? So like if you're playing the long play, this is a good move. I don't know if Google's going to play the long play. They haven't historically, so we'll see if that's.
But the point is big. The theme is creeping. Everybody be creeping, and
if you want visibility, participate in the creep, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a third creeper. There's a third creeper in the mix.
Creeping around these platforms,
which is Xbox. So
They announced they're creeping loud and clear last, like, I don't know, 2 years ago. Xbox Play
everything's
Anywhere.
an Xbox. Yeah, they're like, whatever. If you just have a screen, it's an Xbox. You know that scanner that you use at work to scan grocery store barcode prices?
Xbox.
That's an Xbox. You know,
for one-dimensional games, 2D games.
Yep.
So also, I did see a Reddit post where somebody installed Balatro on one of those things. So
What does that mean?
on it has a touch screen, like a color touch screen on it.
Oh.
For like, and it's a little thing for scanning inventory at a grocery store, and they
Just walk around,
Balatro,
playing Balatro, looking like you're real busy.
That's big brain stuff right there.
So Xbox has their Play Anywhere thing. They've been very clear about their ambitions as far as just cross-platform stuff. And the thing is, what's interesting is they already are set up for it, right, with Xbox and PC
because they have Windows. Because it's Microsoft,
and like they own the operating system, but then also like PC Game Pass,
Xbox's
Xbox
operating
Game Pass.
system is just Windows, right?
Yeah,
it's just
more or less. Yeah. And so the addition, though, is of course stuff like the ROG Ally, right? And they've also been very explicit about their push on kind of opening up essentially like a handheld version of the OS that people can use and then play games on. So similarly to Google, then it's the combo of them then offering additional incentives, right, for devs to participate, right, to be like, okay, yeah, most games are not Play Anywhere on Xbox, still,
that's their framing it. They call it Play Anywhere. That's their
most games are Xbox Play Anywhere, and so they want, of course, more games to be Xbox Play Anywhere because that's part of the whole idea. Is that everyone's basically saying like we might have our console or we might have our PC dominion, but we want to, given how sticky libraries are, which is true, it probably makes a lot of sense if we can just say you get to keep your library with us that you've been building up the whole time, and you just take the same library wherever you want, right? In terms of form factor. Are you on a controller? Great. Keyboard, mouse? Great. Touch? Great. Whatever. It all makes sense, in like a broad way. I think what we see on the dev side is just that it's framed as opportunity when the opportunity isn't necessarily for like us. To Adam's point, if we supported keyboard and mouse and controller for a mobile free-to-play game, are we going to see any real lift in that? Like, because we did that, because players are playing with that? Or is it just because we did it and our overlords are happy and then so they give us a little more featuring, which then is
just the featuring. That's all that it's going to be. Yeah.
So it ends up being, on the indie dev side in particular, this is a lot of work we're talking about. If your game is just on PC, maybe just mouse and keyboard, it's often not even possible sometimes to
it's whether you're planning for it or not. Because if you're planning for it, it's a lot of work to design the game and test it and maintain the whole development process to include all the form factors, right? So that's true. That's the cheaper way to do it because you're planning for it the whole time and making sure that it's always working, right? But it's not like it's still.
It's not free.
Their option to add it afterwards is incredibly difficult. They're just both really expensive. There's no way around it, right?
And so basically, what I'm getting at is that the sensation that on the dev side is oftentimes more so one of saying like, hey, if you guys do from the platforms, they're saying, hey, you guys, in order to get to like visibility that you would have gotten a couple of years ago, you're going to need to do a fuckload more. And
for no tangible benefit other than
but just to get the visibility you did, and it's like framed as there's an opportunity here, latent opportunity.
It's a featuring opportunity.
It's actually just featuring.
And that's what we're talking about. Like you can frame it however you want, right? In terms of like you're being punished for not supporting every form factor in the world, and I can understand how you would view it that way because, like you're saying, a few years ago, if you had a good game, it would just get featured. And now your good game has to also align with the platform's expansion goals.
Yeah. Although when you say a few years ago, you mean literally 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would say a few years ago you just get featured so much as if you said, "Hey, I have a game, can I get featured?" They wouldn't come back to you and say, "Have you? Have you integrated this? Have you added additional control forms that don't even make any sense for your game necessarily for an audience that doesn't exist over here that we're trying to build?
Right?
And can you do that for free?"
Yeah, it didn't.
Although to be fair,
they
have always been doing that to one degree or another.
It's just to a degree. It's just kind of an egregious feel,
Well, in order for them to be doing something new year over year, they have to keep adding stuff, right? So I
well,
think
not necessarily. And this to me is a question of which companies are behind and which ones are ahead, right? Because I think Google is always trying to they're always trying to chase Apple, right? In terms of whatever it is. So like Apple released their Apple Games app, and then shortly thereafter, Google's like, we got Sidekick's coming. We got this whole new other thing too, also, right? And all that. So then and Xbox has been kind of just getting bludgeoned in the console space. And so I think what is happening with some of these players who are trying, they're trying, it feels like they're kind of digging through the couch cushions. Like, there's got to be something in here. There's got to be something we can do, to kind of expand, and
it's a lot of direct
a bit,
competition. But I think what's interesting is where a lot of the reality is Google does not make the games that go on Google Play. So when it says that when Google Play says we want things to be a certain way, they have to get everyone else to do that thing, right?
That's true.
They have two levers they can pull to do it, right? One is they can give people money, which Google doesn't do, or they can give you the opportunity to make money in a way that you couldn't before. So
yes, it's basically
and take less money,
or take less money. One of those.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's happening then with Xbox, and also the new CEO Asha Sharma came out and said that they're going to be refocusing on the next generation Xbox hardware. So that they've now concretely kind of landed back in that space of, there's going to be
a new box.
There's going to be a new Xbox console. Whereas recently that was kind of a question mark because of this weird everything is an Xbox push. And she said that she's going to be taking a hard look at this recent decision to just scrap the idea of Xbox exclusives and just put every Xbox game on everything. And she's saying that might have been a mistake, and we're going to go back and take a look and see going forward about doing more exclusives, right?
And if they're doing exclusives, that's going to come with the requirements probably to be
right.
So I would summarize for these three that we talked about,
Steam, Google,
Xbox, Google Play. If I were a developer who was just I wanted to keep my dev costs as low as possible. I'm not trying to make as much money as possible. I'm just trying to get the best chance that the thing that I do actually works at the lowest investment, right? And so I can do the next thing is I would probably go all in on Steam, Windows only, nothing fancy, right? That's what I would do.
Keyboard
if
mouse.
I was trying to ensure that I could get funding, so that I could go to publishers and that kind of stuff, and get visibility and have the maximum possible revenue, then I would basically, looking at what the market is doing, is I would say your game has to go full cross input form factor. Right? Because that's what's going to give you that's what's going to let you take advantage of all of the stuff that's coming over the next few years for where these companies are throwing their money. And the way we were thinking about it is just what are all these companies trying to do? And then if we can help them do that, then that's when they're like, cool, here's the opportunity for money, right? That's
so the goal is just to say that you somehow design a game that allows that to not be so fucking onerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which we are running into with How Many Dudes, where we're having debates about controller support, because that's the one input method we don't support. And of course, not having it means there's potential doors that close, right? It's a super UI heavy game though. And so we're rolling around in our minds trying to figure out, okay, how can we add controller support to this game without just rebuilding the whole fucking game?
Exactly.
Right?
And part of it again is the original inception for How Many Dudes is we're just gonna build this thing fast and dirty. We're just not going to do controllers because we don't care about consoles or trying to get any kind of deal, because we're going too fast. But
it wasn't just that. It was also at that time we were looking at what all the big players were doing. And we were like, we don't see any opportunities on the horizon for controller related stuff, right? But
with the attention the game's gotten, that might be changing, right? So now we gotta rethink.
Well, and also as we're watching the stuff with Google unfold too, because with Google we were like, hey, we got Google Play Pass, that's an option, right? And so that's what made mobile viable as a platform. So that's why we decided Steam and mobile, because of Google Play Pass, and because Steam is always
go hunt for that, right? Yep.
And so that was the idea. And then for consoles, we were looking at what the consoles were doing, and we're like, they're not doing stuff with indies very much. Like for our talks prior to different platforms weren't going anywhere. So we were just like, there's no reason to do that, right? But as we're seeing what Google is doing with their whole
Yeah.
crossplay, and as we're seeing what Xbox is doing, we're like, okay, looks like it's starting to shift into this whole.
Right.
If you got controller support in particular,
It might open up some doors.
it might open up some doors.
It's the fact that it does it both on both console and on mobile that makes us be like,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, and honestly, like supporting 2 control schemes is often not that big of a deal. 3, that's
Three
where,
is hard.
that's where
It's
shit
very hard.
goes
Yeah.
sideways.
Yeah.
And also 3 on the same device. That's
That's where it goes the most sideways.
That's what I mean. Like the reality of like both the UI, UX, and design competence you have to have, right? But then also just the technical, all the
all the
switching up of
layers.
stuff. That's it's hard to articulate how hard this is to do, let alone to do well then across all 3, let alone to then have it be the case that while you're doing it, that you don't make it onerous enough to like mess with, that if you say like want to change a UI because you're not done with the game yet, that you're not just like, fuck, I'm going to go spend another couple hours on this, right? Because now I can't iterate fast because of all this stuff.
You got 3 versions of every UI, so now you want to tweak something, and then you got to triple the work.
It's like we have a lot of tools to make it easier to do this stuff. Of course, we've developed a lot of them in some of the cases, but controller, basically, really good like native controller support stuff inside of some of the tooling we built for handling UIs is not really a thing that we already have. We don't already have that. Like,
it's
baked in,
it's easy to just have have controller support that interacts with UIs. The real problem is like Sam was saying, it's the design problem. So for example, in How Many Dudes, so much of the gameplay is just drilling into tooltips, where you're just retrieving information, like, because it's about decision making. You get presented with 3 choices. You're like, what should I do? And you got your little mouse, you got your cursor on screen, and you can just hover over all kinds of things and click into things to get more information. Once you got a controller, if you don't have a cursor on screen, how the fuck do you do that? All right, well, I guess we probably just need to have a cursor on screen, and then figure out how to make that good. But yeah, every single one of these things is a huge design problem. So
yeah, and then the other thing that's interesting with all this is like the framing of all the platforms like that is typically along dimensions of like either the opportunity cost increase because the space increase, true or not, right? Like your game will be able to be sold to more people, or we will give you some kind of a bonus, extra 5%, extra 10%, whatever the level up program is. And I think it's interesting because none of it is upfront, which is the reality. I mean, like none of that is upfront payment that helps you offset the hard cost of adding this stuff in.
Yeah.
And it never
usually,
like they just
unless because the like we were saying earlier, like if you already know you're going to do it,
that's
then
different.
You can plan for it the whole time, develop for it the whole time.
But it does. My point is like even knowing that you're going to do it or planning to do it,
the cost
incurs
is there.
cost. The cost is there. Yeah.
But you usually don't even know that you're going to need to do it until because like How Many Dudes is a perfect case, right? It's like we start making a game, we're just going to get this thing out. It's a PC game.
Don't care.
People got surprisingly excited about it to the point where we're like, oh, this is actually going to be like a big release. And so now all of a sudden opportunities that we thought we just didn't have
show back up. Yeah, before
right?
a thing where we didn't shape it in the way to take advantage of it.
But in a way that's incompatible with what we were making.
Right. But hilariously, had we focused on controller support, for example, from the start, we would not have been able to get that demo out by winter, which means
I think it's the correct.
I don't know what that means.
I think it's the correct path because the reality is like it doesn't matter if you have controller support and keyboard support and mouse support for a game that no one gives a shit about.
It's premature optimization, but in a different trench coat.
Yeah, so it's like I still think it's really useful to just target like a particular thing, knowing full well that like at some point you might need to develop some.
You might need to
this is still the way that I like to think about it too. Is about like, are you doing the thing now, or are you making space for the thing right now? Right, as in like, as you're building stuff, if you're like, if I do it this way, that's gonna suck a lot later.
I don't know. I'm still pretty mixed in that because there's so much. I don't know. It's like there's so much heavy lifting then that happens that you may not even be.
It always depends on the degree of it, right? About how much. Yeah. So I'm not saying like that's that. There's a spectrum there of the making room thing. Right?
I like keeping it vague, which is basically just saying like, would it be possible, just theoretically, to like for us to figure out how to do X thing with this game shape, as long as it's not like literally, it's not like this is a VR game. How are you going to control it with a touchscreen? It makes sense. As long as it's not like such a full thing where I could be like, I can see
there
There's a way.
are Venn diagrams of feasibility with all these
Yes.
different things. Yeah, so,
As long as there's like a sliver of it in there, I'm like, I don't want to look at it that much until
yeah, just
we have to, honestly.
keep the door open a crack.
a crack. But don't think about the door every day. That's tiring.
Yeah, let's talk about the final three. So the reason we spent the most time on these first three platforms is
Because they're the creepers.
They're
That's
the They're the ones making big moves. Okay,
I guess you got creepers and retreaters at this point.
Yeah, but creepers are where one kind of opportunity is, right? Which is basically saying, "Ooh, I see what the platform is doing. Let me see if I can make something that fits with what they're trying to do, so that they actually
They're like we're partners.
They want to use it in their efforts, which is how we've actually found a large fraction of our success up to this point is by having very lucky timing and by making something that was a good fit for what one or two platforms were trying to accomplish with their store with their business goals.
Yeah. So what's happening then with the other three? We got PlayStation, which we never finalized a deal with. Right.
We without any details, I'll just say were given a contract once.
We didn't like it.
And we said no.
Yep. Yeah, which doesn't break any NDA to just say that, but because we've never signed anything with them, and from what we've seen, it's just a rough place for indies. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find money there. It's hard to get featuring there. And they're kind of retreating further into their space because they're dominating the console space. They're doing super, super well. And they have over the years slowly started trickling out some of their old exclusives onto PC. Long after the life cycle of the game is done.
Years after.
And that then results in, just a little bump of revenue for them whenever they do it. But again, it's always just old games, right? And so they've kind of come out recently and said, yeah, we're just not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, which is interesting because there was the last 2 or 3 years, I would say, has been essentially everybody feel like they were putting all their stuff on Steam. Just everybody. And now, Sony, which is, again, those are big, that's like your God of War stuff, like big things saying it's like we're making some money, but we can see that in the long run, this might be eroding our castle. So maybe not.
And to be fair, whatever PlayStation is doing, they're doing it well because
they're fine.
They're crushing it.
We don't have to like it on the other side.
The way that they operate
is the point. It's not.
It doesn't jive with us as a small indie studio, but it's somebody's doing well.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yep. Every day somebody's making bank.
Lots of CEOs making a lot of money.
And Switch is doing the same, right? Yep. I mean, they just Nintendo games they've never crossed that line of being like we're going to put them on anything else,
except for Super Mario Run.
Unless it's a specific game, built for that platform. And they're just continuing that. They're doing fine.
Yeah, and we've spoken in the past too about how getting your game noticed or making any money on Switch as an indie. There was that really early moment where games like Celeste, kind of popped off in the first 6 to 12 months.
Even Hollow Knight got a lot of its lift
to Switch
from Switch.
Yeah, back in 2017, when it was first kind of hitting the market. So 9 years ago, right?
Yeah. And in general today, games that are extremely popular on other platforms, so that kind of everybody knows about them, also can move some units on.
Yeah, relatively, it's not. Relatively a lot is the important note.
Yeah.
From what you see on PC.
And if you don't already have a huge amount of success, it's
not worth it.
As far as we've seen, basically zero. There have been some counterexamples, not very many that we've seen.
And Nintendo, they really push their first party titles really hard. So you're always if Nintendo's like, do we feature, let's just say we put how many dudes on Switch, which we don't have any plans to, but it's like, do we feature how many dudes or do we feature the next Zelda game? Who do you think's going to win in that showdown?
Well, and again, the way to think about it always is if you're trying to decide what your platforms are, is to ask, why does the platform want my game or indie games in general, right? And try to get an answer to that. And I think to me, what makes the most sense for Switch is what Nintendo wants is a store that feels full so that it feels like there's a place where you could get anything. but all the other stuff that isn't first party is there to give you a sense that the store is full.
It's
that's
I think I feel like
It's to
Nintendo
bide your
views
time.
they view all these other
Yeah.
games as just some crap to pass the time until the next Nintendo release, right?
Yeah, but if they didn't have that, then they would only have their own releases, and they don't have that many releases actually.
Exactly.
So they can't sell a console that has 10 games.
Yeah,
only,
compared
right?
to
So the
compared to
purpose
your
of all the
Switch
rest of them is it's to fill time and to fill the library, but they're not trying to sell those. They just need those to be in there so that it doesn't feel like they've sold you a $500 console that you can only play 10 games on.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's and also supporting the Joy-Cons if you have any kind of multiplayer in your game. We're now
Oh,
speaking
boy.
of control
Take
scheme
a
problems.
deep fucking breath.
Because then they're like, all right, so you need to support a normal controller with its 16 or whatever buttons, but also
break it in half.
if somebody breaks it in half and now they only have one joystick and 4 buttons and then 2 little finger buttons, then your game still needs to play perfectly fine with that, and also the UI needs to change to display the new buttons, and which we did with Levelhead.
Yep.
We did do that.
We did do that. Yep.
And took a while.
It was a thing we
Took
did.
a while.
It works great. Was it worth it? Nope.
No,
Definitely not.
no.
Yeah.
And then last we got Apple, which, as we talked about before, their whole thing is lock people into the walled garden of Apple. But there's, as far as we could tell, there's not that dramatic of a sort of like Mac and iOS like crossover kind of a push, like what Google is doing, like what Google's trying to do.
I feel like I've recently seen some like inklings of it, but it's not been.
I
it's
feel
not
like they're
been a
going
big-
to.
Kind of trying to, but it's not. I don't know. It hasn't been. I think strategically, it's not the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're just not. They're not playing the same game. But I think they basically fall in the same category. Then it's like a Sony, which is like they're doing great in terms of Apple Arcade continuing to do bonkers numbers. Like it's just fine. They're not looking to change anything up.
They still don't have. They won't have strike through pricing in the store. They're not going to have wish lists. They're the store has been pretty.
They're like, this is
static.
cooked. We cooked it. We more recook. Okay, like just enjoy your pie.
Yeah,
It's fine.
they're like,
And
you want to play a game? Just look at the top grossing charts and just.
Yeah, well, again, it's the
download
same idea
those,
too, right? It's like is that store gives you top grossing? That's its mechanism, right? And so again, why do they want your game? They want your game if it is the kind of game that could land in that. Right?
If it's gross, if it's
and if
grossing.
it is, it's going to do that whether or not they do anything. Right?
Yeah.
That's outside their control. That's just going to happen. Slash, you'll spend $2 billion trying to make it happen. either way, they don't have to do anything because it's just if you make a lot of money, we want you to be the thing that stays there to keep making us money, right?
because we also
And-
make money when you make
Yeah. So what's everything else in the store for? Well, it's basically for them to be able to sell the platform, not the games, right? Because it's like Switch is. They want to be able to say, hey, you can play any game, you can play. You can do anything on this device.
And I
that
think
we're
with
selling, right?
arcade's interesting because arcade is almost more like a Sony thing happening, like a PlayStation thing happening inside of the mobile house, right? Because it is typically like exclusives, or they'll pay to get like games that just blow up that happen to be kind of mobile adjacent. They'll pay money after the launch to get them on the service, and so it's like
But that's also become more restrictive too.
yeah, all of it has. But like it's I don't know, they're just doing the same thing so far as I'm concerned. Like kind of they're not really changing tack at all. So you got these creepers, retreaters. I don't know, just
but there's also one kind of final note, which we're getting a little ton of time, but just as something to kind of be careful of as an indie, which is something we ran into recently, and there's a reason why How Many Dudes doesn't have Rumpus in it. Rumpus is our cross-platform user management cloud saving system. So in the past, we've always really prioritized that, where we'd say, yeah, if you buy, say, Crashlands 2 on Steam, and then you also have it on Google Play, or you have it on iOS, then you can just log into Rumpus and you can just transfer your save. So you just pick up where you left off, right? But now all these platforms, because even the ones that are not creeping out into new domains, they still either they don't want you to collect any user data whatsoever, which includes saves, game saves, right? Or they want you to keep the user stuck in their particular walled garden.
Yeah,
right?
basically use
So-
their systems.
Yeah, 10 years ago
Apple
that meant
Arcade
stuck to a
and
platform, right? But now it
PlayStation,
means
Yeah.
use their cloud service to move the player's data around within the platform. Right?
Yeah, because actually, guys, I didn't see it because we mentioned the level up thing from Google Play, which includes Yeah,
Cloud
that's
save.
Cloud saves, right?
Yep.
I didn't see it there, so I'm not sure. But my bet is what they mean is our cloud saves.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Google- it's Google Cloud
if you have your
subscriptions.
own
Yeah.
cloud saves, like, no, that's not.
Doesn't count.
No, that
Yeah.
they don't want that actually at all. You don't want that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and so what we found is it's always been a battle to have with different platforms with their different guidelines of what they allow in the store and what they don't. You're always walking a tightrope if you have any kind of a user management system like that with cross-platform stuff. And now it almost seems like just don't.
do not.
Just
Not
don't
feasible,
bother.
yeah.
You know, because
Or
even
the
if
markup
you
entry.
and like Apple Arcade in particular, they don't want any online stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, or at least as far as we have experienced in the past.
I think you can. If a game is like truly multiplayer,
Oh yeah,
then
they
there's,
have
like, some
multiplayer
allowances
things, but
for
then
it.
you don't want the
Right.
game doesn't talk outside of arcade.
Yeah.
That's the short of it. Yeah.
It's PlayStation style, which PlayStation
Yes,
is
PlayStation.
also like because that was part of the struggle we had, and part of what the contractual issue was we had with them when we were looking at working with them long ago with original Crashlands was exactly that. is
Yeah,
they have-
transferring player data into and out of the PlayStation
Yeah.
ecosystem.
And that's an old story. I mean, that's like Epic fought with them about this with Rocket League or whatever.
then
it's extra-
Helldivers recently, and it's
Yeah. So there's always this like cross progression thing, and so I think as platforms creep, then they're actually weirdly they're going to get more intense about it because they have the option. Then it's no longer us saying like, well, I mean, a player might want to play it on mobile. It'd be Google saying, well, yeah, but if they want to play it on PC, then they should be able to play it on our PC, and that's kind of different.
Well,
So I
yeah,
think
because-
I think my bet is too, because we're talking about this right now, is like these are the things that are happening because they're trying to make these things happen, right?
Mhm.
And you get benefits from doing them at the moment, right? By increased visibility and all this other kind of stuff. My bet is that these things are going to start becoming requirements for any kind of visibility at all. Is that
soft or hard requirements depending on.
yeah? We'll probably start. I would bet in like 5 years or less. We'll probably start having to fight platforms about, because if Google's on PC and Steam is on PC, somebody else is creeping into it. Everybody wants their thing to be the exclusive one. Everyone wants their pricing parity.
Yeah, maybe
There's
they'll
gonna
be
all this stuff.
Maybe
that's
they'll be
gonna-
exclusives again in a couple of years once they have
They
their
might be,
new
yeah.
little moats set up.
I mean,
you know?
if they want to creep that hard, they're going to have to ask for it, right? Because
They would, yes.
if we say, oh yeah, we don't have any user cross-platform, whatever, if Google says, yeah, you got to support PC, you got to support Chromebook, you got to support controller, you got to support all these things, that just means that if somebody buys the game so we do all that work, somebody buys the game on Google, and now if Google succeeds at creeping, right, then that's just that many fewer people buying the game on Steam, right,
Yep.
or whatever, right. So we would have to like do all this extra work to lose players. That's kind of, or to lose sales. That's kind of the end result of it, which means
especially because it's algorithmic on every platform, right?
Yeah.
Your visibility, like there are curated components still on every platform, but it's largely algorithmic, and so as these start to move into the same markets, we're going to start having a new kind of trouble, which is that as you try to like make
Put
sure you've got a
multiple
piece
platforms
of each
together.
one, then you
Yeah.
actually take away from each one and get worse, and you end up with a net negative or net neutral or who knows what
For the
on balance,
devs.
right?
right for the platform, they're
To
just
be fair,
viewing it as a win, right? So yeah, so in that kind of an environment, it's a huge ask for, say, like Google to ask for something like that, and that's where you would have to start seeing exclusives, right?
Yeah.
Like
As in they're
make
gonna have to
sense.
pay for it somehow to get it to happen, because
Yeah, because the
Otherwise-
promise of them taking less money is not the same as them compensating up front with some kind of minimum guarantee that's recoupable or something like that.
well, it's the same
Uh,
idea as like, ooh, I could go to Epic and only pay 12% or whatever it is, right? It's like, yeah, but you're paying 12% on $0. In
Yeah,
revenue,
you're not
so
making any money there, so
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's worth noting that we didn't really talk about the Epic Store in this conversation because that's nothing's really going on
For obvious
Yeah,
reasons.
maybe
Yeah.
someday, not today.
Yeah. All right, that's all the time we have for this week. I hope everybody found that interesting.
Really.
Yeah, we'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa Acosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate, and links to the podcast archives. And of course, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, pick up the demo of How Many Dudes, take a crack at it. We are just barreling through development right now and adding tons and tons of cool stuff. But the demo is still super cool. So, feel free to have fun with that. We appreciate it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.